I guess it's time. I think we are 3 minutes past 11, and because we are expecting. Let's mute, please. Because we're expecting to have a long session, or rather, we want to have an opportunity to have a Q&A session. I would suggest that we start immediately so that we can give you ample time to be able to interact with our experts on the call and have all your questions answered. So welcome to our first webinar, I think, for the year, for this quarter. For those that don't know me, my name is Nicanor Sabula. I'm your CEO here at KATA, and I'm joined by my colleagues here. And I can see we have members from across the country, Mombasa, Kisumu, Eldoret, and Nakuru, that have joined on this call. The reason why we convene this webinar is to be able to respond to some of the issues that a lot of you have raised regarding ETIMS. And as you are aware, KRA did send a circular last year that announced that beginning 1st of January, they will be recognizing, ETIMS invoices for all expenditures. And I think there's been a lot of questions that have been thrown my way. And some of those questions, we were able to share them with our team at Tara Agility, who are our tax support team, and they will be able to respond to them. I am also sure who is on from Tara Agility, who just perhaps want to make some opening statements, and thereafter we can be able to start the conversations. Is that Derrick? No?
Yes, that is correct. Yeah.
Derrick.
Good morning, Nicanor. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Derrick. Good to have you on the call. We've got a full house today, and that shows you just how eager we are as an industry to be able to hear from what you have, but also to engage with you and have all those questions that we have had answered. We did also ask our members to invite their finance teams onto this call, and where possible also to ask their auditors to also join on the call, so that we can have all those questions that we have had answered. And I hope that we'll be able to answer to the best of your ability. If there are those that we may need to refer them to any further or higher authorities, please do let us know so that they can be referred. Over to you, Derrick, to run the session.
Thank you so much, Nicanor. It's definitely a pleasure to be here and to lead you through this whole conversation. I hope you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you. I'm not so sure if it's very clearly. But yes, I think you are.
Okay, how about now?
Yes. That sounds better.
Okay.
Oh, yes, way better. Oh, way better. That's way better.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, so it's definitely a pleasure to take you through this conversation where we're going to tackle ETIMS, what this means for our businesses, and what we need to do so that now we are able to comply, and moving forward, we are able to just be in the right side of the tax man. So without further ado, I request my colleague Eda to share the presentation so that now we go through these items one by one. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Eda. Yeah, so today we are going to tackle the ETIMS and ETIMS compliance, especially for the travel industry, which I believe you are all part of. And we're going to look at ETIMS, the implementation, and what we need to do so that we remain 100% compliant. So maybe you can move to the first. So we're basically asking what is ETIMS, and ETIMS is an electronic tax invoicing management system. And it's a system that is being implemented by the Kenya Revenue Authority. And this is in line with section 23A of the Tax Procedures Act, which enables the electronic issuance and transmission, as well as the management of the tax invoices for the taxable supplies of goods and services. So this is definitely supposed to be done where you're transacting with goods and services as well. So the tax invoices are generated electronically, and the same are transmitted in real time to the taxman or to KRA. And each invoice becomes part of KRA compliance database, where they are able now to match between the purchaser of good or service and the seller of the same. So for the travel industry, which I believe most of us are part of, ETIMS is being primarily used to validate the taxable services and income that is generated by the travel agents, as well as vouch or support the allowable business expenses that are being claimed by all the taxpayers, especially in this industry, to just ensure that they have been declared by the seller, and as such, you are also able to claim the same. So the purpose of ETIMS is mostly to eliminate the fake or altered invoices. So in the past, we have seen these being a real thorn in the flesh of the taxman, and in a bit now to eliminate that challenge, where people are claiming expenses that are not being supported, or rather that have not been declared, or in a way you condemn fake, because you would essentially input figures into your returns, and therefore the taxman is losing a lot in terms of revenue. So in a bid to cap this, they have now introduced the ETIMS compliance. So again, this is to cap VAT leakages. And here we have seen a major challenge being the missing traders, where somebody would claim VAT and deduct the same VAT payable on their VAT return. But then again, you find that the taxman is not able to match the with the sale that is being generated from the other end. So in a bid to eliminate all these frauds and all these challenges, the taxman is working around ETIMS to ensure that they do not lose out on all these revenues. So the next item is to enable the transaction level matching between the suppliers and the customers. And this is happening on a VAT approach and also on an income tax perspective. So for every item that is claimed, either for VAT or as an expense, the taxman expects that we have somebody else who has declared the same as a sale. As such, the taxman is able to match the two and ensure that there are no VAT or income tax leakages on the same. So the last one is now to shift compliance from a post-audit to a real-time monitoring. So you find in the past, the taxman was only able to have all these challenges as they are doing the KRA audits. But then in a bid to now shift these to real-time compliance and real-time monitoring of exactly what is happening in terms of revenue and in terms of expenses. So they are now implementing these ETIMS approach to just ensure that they have sealed all the loopholes that are resulting in them losing out revenue. You can move to the next slide, Andy. All right, so the third item we will be looking at on the ETIMS solutions and exactly how to onboard so that we ensure that we are compliant, especially from the year 2025 and 2026 moving forward. Because under these, we have noted that the taxman or KRA, as Nicanor highlighted as we were starting this presentation, is that now they have shifted the verification of income and expenses to the ETIMS side of it, so that now basically anything that you're claiming as a, or rather you're declaring as a sale is fully supported by ETIMS, and everything that you are claiming as an expense, of course with a few exemptions, is again supported by ETIMS. So that again they are able to just generate revenue as much as possible. So the solutions that are available so that we ensure that we are fully compliant, there are several options that you could use depending on which is easier for your business, and of course based also on the bulk of your transactions. So the first item under these is the online portal, which is a web-based platform for invoicing, and you can access these through etims.kra.go.ke. So once you visit that website there, you are able to register. Then you would ordinarily use KRA PIN, and you would generate a password. And once you're able to log in, you can now go ahead and generate ETIMS invoices for your sales. So the second option you could use is the ETIMS client. So this is a downloadable software that you can download, install in your laptop or the device that you're using, and then you're able now to generate ETIMS compliant invoices. The third option you could use is the ETIMS Lite, which is the web. Again, this is the web-based solution that is accessible through eCitizen. So you're able to log in into your eCitizen account, and you are able to generate ETIMS compliant invoices. You could use the USSD, which is ordinarily *222#. Especially these are for people who mostly do not have access to internet every now and then. So you could choose to use the USSD codes *222#. And this is mostly for individuals and sole proprietors, especially those ones who are trading also under a trading name. We also have the ETIMS Lite. Again, this is a mobile app. You can get these on Play Store or Apple Store. So once you get this from either of these platforms, you are able to download that. You register, and you can proceed with issuing ETIMS invoices at the comfort of your home, or rather at the comfort of any location you are, because in most cases you carry your phone almost to every other place. The next item is the ETIMS system-to-system integration. This is mostly used for companies who have bulk, or rather who do bulk invoicing. So you are able to integrate these with your either your accounting platform, such that once you generate an invoice, it becomes now an ETIMS invoice, and it has those features that an ETIMS invoice should have, which we are going to look at much later into this presentation. Another option you could use is the virtual sales control unit, which is also able to integrate between the ERPs or the accounting platforms as well. And as such, your invoice becomes ETIMS compliant. The last option you could use is the online sales control unit. And this is a solution that also allows for system-to-system integration. This is mostly online, and again, this is mostly suitable for taxpayers who, or rather, taxpayers who invoice, or rather who are always online. The last option we could use is the reverse invoicing, and this is a buyer-initiated solution. So we have seen the implementation of this, which is quite helpful, and especially for taxpayers who deal with people maybe who are not and are not able to generate ETIMS from their end. So as such, as the buyer, you are able to generate an ETIMS. You would indicate the seller's KRA PIN, and basically what they are supposed to do from their end is to just verify that indeed they are actually making that sale to you. And once they approve that, then you're able to obtain an ETIMS invoice. So for the companies, the onboarding requirements are the KRA PIN and the director's PIN and phone number for verification purposes. However, for individuals, a PIN and a phone number is also required. So if you have a KRA PIN, the director's PIN and the director's phone number, and it's a phone number that is registered on iTax, so that you're able to match the two accounts. And once that is finalized, you're able to now generate ETIMS compliant invoices. So the next item we are going to be looking at is who must use ETIMS. So in general, any person who is carrying on business in Kenya is supposed to issue ETIMS compliant invoices for both the goods and services. So we've seen a question around this where people say, well, mine is a service, and as such, I'm not required to register for ETIMS. But the law is very clear that you are supposed to register for ETIMS if you're, for example, or if you're dealing with both goods and services. Again, this applies for VAT and non-VAT registered persons. So again, here we have seen a question around the same. People saying that, well, I do not have VAT, and as such, I am not required to onboard all ETIMS or register for ETIMS and generate ETIMS compliant invoices. So whether you are registered for VAT or not, you are actually supposed to register for ETIMS. Can move to there are a few exemptions as per the Tax Procedures Act that exempts a few expenses for ETIMS, and we are going to have a look at those exemptions. And the first one is emoluments, or the salaries and wages. So where you have staff and you have the salaries and wages expense, that your staff are not obligated to issue you with an ETIMS invoice. However, the controls we have seen around this is that the taxman is able to match this information with what you declare as, or rather under pay as you earn. So for the pay as you earn that you will normally declare on a monthly basis, the taxman is able to match the same with the emoluments or salaries and wages expense that you will claim in your, or rather under your income tax. Something else that is exempt from ETIMS are imports. So imports, because you're not getting this from the Kenyan jurisdiction, you are not going, in most cases, you will not get an ETIMS invoice. However, we have seen the taxman again try and verify these expenses from the duties that you normally pay at the point of entry. So again, imports imports are also exempt from ETIMS. I know here we might have a question around the import of services, because then if you're getting services from another jurisdiction, then you will not get ETIMS invoices around the same. So the next item that is again exempt from ETIMS are the air passenger tickets. So I know in your industry, you mostly have these as a cost of sale, which is material in most cases. But then the air passenger ticketing or tickets are exempt from ETIMS. The next item is investment allowances. Investment allowances are also exempt from ETIMS. However, we have seen again the taxman try and do audit around the same to just ensure that whatever you're claiming as investment allowances is actually the true position. Second, or rather, the next item are interest and bank charges. So the interest and bank charges are also exempt from ETIMS, because then your bank will not give you an ETIMS invoice for every bank charge that you're incurring. And the next item is expenses subject to final withholding tax. So for expenses that are subject to final withholding tax, in most cases we've seen things like dividends here. For such expenses, again, you are not required to get an ETIMS invoice around the same. However, again, here the taxman is also able to verify this information from the withholding tax that has actually been paid. And the last item are services by non-resident without a permanent establishment in Kenya. As I believe I had talked about this, but where you're getting services from a non-resident who does not have a physical establishment in Kenya, then you will not invoice ETIMS invoice, or rather you will not get ETIMS invoice for the same. However, all these expenses will still be deductible. As you're working out your income at the end of the year. The next item we can look at the not specific to your industry, we can have a look at exactly what is going on. And we're saying that the air passenger ticketing refers to the principal airline transport services, which include airfare, airline taxes, and surcharges. So in Kenya, these commonly operates under IATA, PSP, or the ETC settlement model. Again, here we say that you will not get ETIMS invoices for the same. So the correct treatment of this is that your gross ticket value is a pass-through amount, and this is excluded again from ETIMS invoicing. Again, this is not taxable income for the travel agents. However, you would need to note that the agent commissions, the service fees, and the handling charges are taxable, and these must be supported by ETIMS invoices. So the next item again here is the critical clarification of your day-to-day expenses. So we are saying that the air passenger ticketing exclusion does not extend to the ordinary operating expenses. So you would note that in as much as the ticketing, or rather the tickets are exempt from ETIMS, or other operational expenses, which would include your office rent, your stationaries and printing, your utilities and internet, cleaning, your security expenses, your maintenance services as well. And then we have the marketing and advertising. We have the professional fees, which would include the legal accounting charges, And the local transports and courier services are again not exempt from ETIMS. So as you structure your profit and loss, you would note that in most cases you will have these expenses, and that one or the law is clear that they would need to vouch these through the ETIMS invoices. So now failure to obtain again ETIMS invoices for these expenses will, and in most cases will lead to disallowment of these expenses, and that will again be due of the same. So the recent public notice we've seen from KRA is this one that was dated January 2026, where they say that they're now going to validate your income and expenses that you will declare and claim at the end of the year through the ETIMS system. So again, here we insist that I know it's mostly a thorn in the flesh, especially for your industry. We are insisting that you will need to have ETIMS invoices for most of your expenses, of course, with the exemption or other exempting the ones that you have looked at. And as such, you are now supposed to have proper supporting documents, or rather the proper supporting ETIMS invoices to just support your position and claim these expenses. So on the filing system, we have also seen implementation of the same, where now we are moving from a manual system, where initially you would just punch in the figures as you have in your books, but then now we have an auto-populated income tax filing model, where the taxman now is able to just populate the incomes that you have generated based on the ETIMS invoices that you've done. Obviously, the taxman would allow you to increase your sales, but they will not allow you to declare less sales than actually on ETIMS. And then again, for your expenses, based on the ETIMS invoices that you've received, the taxman is able to populate all those expenses, and you are not again allowed to claim more expenses than what has been transmitted through ETIMS. So maybe just an emphasis on the same is that ETIMS is here to stay, and ETIMS is serious, because then if you're not able to claim expenses that are not supported by ETIMS, then you would find that you will have paid out those expenses, but again, you're not able to claim the same, and as such, you will have more taxes to pay at the end of the period. Yeah, so I see somebody has raised their hand, so I don't know if you have a question or it's a mistake. Okay, all right. I think it's a mistake, so we can conclude this conversation. Yeah, so we are just saying that ETIMS is here to stay, and we will need to comply with ETIMS so that we ensure that we are not at the risk of having additional confusing costs, or rather also not be in a position to claim legit expenses that you have actually paid for. So just look through the comment section. I have not seen any questions, but I believe I can invite now anybody who has a question to just go ahead. I don't know if my colleague Beatrice is in the call, and she can assist with these questions as well.
Yeah, thanks, Derrick. Thank you, members of KATA, for your time. So in case of any questions on this matter, which we have seen KRA taking very seriously, as you have seen towards the end of the presentation, it is now a requirement for you to have ETIMS active for you to get a tax compliance. I believe when you want to apply for tenders and several jobs, you may be required to have a valid tax compliance. And this is also now tagged to ETIMS. So if you don't have an ETIMS, then automatically you're disqualified from getting a tax compliance. So I think we can hand it over to Nicanor to continue.
Thanks. Okay, thanks, Beatrice. I think we've got some questions that members wanted to ask, and also we had also asked them to send some questions in advance. We'd also pose them, but I wanted to give this opportunity to Beryl of Grey Impala. I know we've had some conversations. Beryl, if you can, let me see if the team can unmute you. But you should be able to ask the question. Beryl? No? Is that? You find her? Okay. Yeah. So I think, okay, so we are working to just enable Beryl also to be able to ask the questions. In the meantime, any question that you may have that is in the chat, okay, you can also put that on the chat as we work to enable. She's okay, no? Beryl, I'm told actually that if you unmuted, it should be able to. You should be able to speak from your end. Okay. Abdikadir, can you hear us? Can you be able to say something? I just want to be sure that we can communicate. No? Okay. Certainly. Any member, I just want to try and see whether it's a technical error from an individual or it's for everybody who is unable to unmute and speak, so that we can work. Yeah.
Testing.
Okay, that's okay. So
Can
Marie.
you hear me? So
Yes, we can hear you, Marie. So it means that Beryl, you may want to look at your gadget and unmute, because we haven't done any corporate unmuting. Or anyone with a question as we wait for Beryl to get ready? Yeah. Marie.
Hello.
Okay. Anish, yes. Anish, go ahead.
Yes. Airlines don't give us ETIMS, while we have to issue ETIMS for ticketing. How is KRA going to calculate? Because if you look at it, if we cannot be able to claim that as expenses, our what do you call it? Income tax will actually go quite high. Payable income tax.
Yeah, thanks, Anish, for that question. So as Derrick was going through the exemptions, you notice that the airline ticketing is exempted from ETIMS, and as such, the KRA will allow you to claim the airline ticket cost without an ETIMS invoice. So this is one of the exempted items in the Tax Procedures Act, and therefore it will not be a problem for you to claim the airline's cost without NITIMS supporting document.
Hello.
Yes, Gray Impala?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Beryl, yes, now you're good.
Yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Gray Impala as a company, we are compliant with all that has been said. But of course, as Anish has raised it, my question would be, what would be the recommendation from you to, for instance, KATA, in regards to this law that is there, where they are saying that the airline passenger ticketing is exempted? Why can't that law trickle down to us as an industry, like the way we will sell a zero-rated products? For example, milk. If milk is zero-rated from the factory, it goes down to the retailer, to the person who is consuming. So when they ask us to issue an ETIMS and the airline is not issuing us with an ETIMS receipt, why can't they just include the travel agents to this law? Because at the end of it all, how will they determine that this is the actual amount that I'm supposed to pay 30% income tax on it? So are they supposed to regularize our industry? Or that is where I'm really having a headache, because I feel like in this financial bill that is coming for 2025, 2026, for 2026, 2027, why can't we be included? Will you recommend this to KATA to front this so that we are included in this law? Or how do we do it? How will they actually determine what is my commission? So that is my question, and that has been my argument all along.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if I hear you right, Beryl, is so that question is literally directed to KATA, that we lobby for Parliament to just consider the entire travel agency business. Now, if you recall, we did put up an appeal to KRA, I think early last year, seeking clarity and the exemption of the travel agents business, for exemption on ETIMS. And they wrote back, to us a ruling saying that they cannot do that on a blanket basis. They will consider case by case, because there are travel agents that do nothing but just sell tickets. For those ones, then it's easier. But there are also those agents that, in addition to selling, air tickets, you also do other business. You sell accommodation, you sell transfers, you sell, other things. And I think what KRA was arguing is that it is impossible then to just offer a blanket, a blanket waiver for the entire industry, because the business models also are diverse. And the reason why you see that the air ticketing is being exempted is because of global treaties that actually exempt air ticketing, from this taxation. Obviously, I think what I hear you will again make an attempt during this finance bill. We will also make another proposal that the industry be considered. But KRA has pronounced itself on the matter when we put it before them early last year. Okay, any other question? But in the meantime, I will also ask Derrick if you can just read through the questions, perhaps yourself and Beatrice. So these were the advanced.
Okay, yeah, I can read them. So the first question, somebody is asking, what are the legal and compliance requirements for ETIMS in the travel and tourism sector? You'll take that, Beatrice?
Yeah, so I think what are the legal and compliance requirements? So I think the first legal requirement is for you to register. You need to be registered on ETIMS using the several methods that we have gone through the presentation, which we can share after this for your close reference. So in terms of compliance, you are required to raise an invoice on ETIMS for every sale that you make. So if you're selling to any customer, even if it's an individual or even if it's a corporate, so you're required to do your invoice on ETIMS. And on the flip side, you're also required to obtain an ETIMS bill or invoice from your suppliers that are ETIMS supported. This will enable your profit and loss, income and expenses to be allowable and deductible for tax purposes. Yeah.
The second question is, how do travel agents register on ETIMS, and what is the onboarding process? I believe we have already looked at this and the different solutions that are available, including the USSD. We have the online platform and the other platforms that we looked at. So I believe we have already tackled that question on the presentation.
Yeah, maybe just to add, Derrick, on that, what we have seen some of the travel agents we've worked with is the integration. I believe you're doing several invoices or bills, so it's easier for you when you're integrated. There are several providers who have been approved by KRA to provide this integration with your existing ERP. So we can actually recommend some of them. You can reach out to us on the side if you require to do an integration with your existing system, so that when you raise your invoice in your current system, the invoice will automatically be ETIMS compliant. Next one, Derrick.
Yeah, thanks, Beatrice. So the third question is, what is required for the technical implementation of ETIMS in a travel agency?
I think we've already handled that on the question number 1, because I believe technical implementation is still the compliance requirement, or how is it that you will ensure that your ETIMS compliant?
Agreed, yes. So the next question, or the fourth question, is, how does ETIMS invoicing work for residents and non-residents?
Yeah, so all resident taxpayers or businesses in Kenya are required to be compliant with ETIMS, but non-residents are not. So if you're buying anything from a non-resident, you do not have to have an ETIMS invoice, because for them, they're not regulated by our tax laws in Kenya. So they're not regulated by Kenya, so they don't need to have ETIMS compliance on their end. However, you'll have to show proof, like have the documentation, the invoice they have sent to you, to prove that you've actually purchased from them.
The fifth question is, how should invoices be generated? So full invoice amount, service fee only, or cost to airline included?
Yeah, so I think this is a question we've had different opinions. In my opinion, the invoice should be the full amount, because you will then be able to claim the cost of the airline, the ticket cost, without having an ETIMS. The reason I say full invoice amount is because, for example, you're selling to KATA flight. KATA will require that full invoice for them to be able to claim that ticket cost, because you're not buying from the airline, but you're buying from the agent. So we'll require the full amount supported by ETIMS for me to be able to claim that as an expense. So even for your clients, this will be useful for them. And again, you'll be able to claim now the cost using non-ETIMS invoices because airlines are exempt.
Okay.
Beatrice, I think that's where, just before we leave that, and I think that's where a lot of agents, are getting confused. And I wish I could speak practically just around the challenges that they are facing. So what you're saying is that raise a full invoice, that has all the costs or the items, and then claim back the cost of the air ticket.
Yeah.
At what point do you do the claiming?
When you're declaring of course, when you're preparing your profit and loss, you will have the cost of the airline ticket as your cost of sales. Yeah, which is what we were calling a pass-through cost to your customer, then you add your markup. So the full invoice will contain both your markup and the cost. It's just like if you're buying stock to sell, maybe I'm selling stationery, I'll buy them at a certain price and sell them with my markup, right? So I'll be telling my customer, I'm selling this pencil with by whatever, how I bought it plus the markup. But I'll not be telling them to pay, to just invoice them my markup amount. Yeah. So it's the same thing for you. You're buying to sell. I don't know if that's clear.
Yeah, and I think that's important because a lot of agents seems to be getting confused. But for me, I think that clarifies it. All right. So the cost of the ticket will be claimed at the point, of filing, so that then you claim those as your costs, of sales. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it's clear. Okay, proceed, Derrick.
All right, okay. So the next question, somebody is asking, how does KRA recognize cost of sales when invoicing zero-rated services like air tickets?
Yeah, so it's not KRA to recognize, it's for you to declare this cost and then support them with the airlines, maybe statement or invoices if they give you, which do not have to be ETIMS compliant. So I think there's a confusion here because zero-rated service like air ticketing. So this is not about VAT. So ETIMS is for both VAT and non-VAT taxpayers. So you don't have to have VAT for you to be on ETIMS. It's a requirement for all businesses. So it doesn't matter if you're zero-rated, 16% or non-VAT.
Actually, air ticketing is exempt, not even zero-rated.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you short. Sorry, I have a question. At what point do I do
Go ahead,
reporting?
Go ahead,
At what point? Thank you. At what point do I do the reporting for my airline sales? Am I supposed to do it every month or when I'm filing at the end of my financial year?
It will be at the end of your financial year. So filing for your income tax, which is the corporate income tax, comes at the end of your financial year, which means the 12 months period, which could run from any month to a 12-month period end.
So I've had an issue with KRA before. That's why I'm raising that question. And they were very clear and told me that I'm ignorant of the law. They told us that we are supposed to be filing our sales at the end of every month, by the 20th of every month. So when 20th of February arrives, I'm supposed to
Not
file
unless
the sales that I have done for January.
that is for VAT purposes. So I don't know if you're registered for VAT, because VAT requires you to declare the sales every month. But if you're
Yes.
not VAT registered, it's yearly.
Okay, so we've been doing that before. We were doing it by just filing the VAT only. Then when there was an issue, it was a very big case, and they told us that we're supposed to be reporting our sales, including whatever is vatable, every 20th. So it's a bit confusing because sometimes we will hire out a vehicle and sometimes we will not hire out a vehicle. So sometimes we will have a sale for VAT or a particular month, and sometimes we will not have a sale. So it's a bit confusing. I need to be guided clearly, because they really insisted that we are supposed to be reporting by the 20th of every month, so that at the end of the financial year, they are able to, we have already transmitted and they are able to pull out. So by the time we are filing our income tax, they already have the data of how much we are supposed to be paying. And that brings back to my question, because it is a pass-through cost from the airline. How are they able to determine my actual commission that I'm supposed to pay 30% on it, right?
Yeah.
After the whole financial year, if I'm to do away with all the VAT stuff.
So if you're VAT registered, you are required to declare both your vatable and non-vatable sales, including your exempt sales. I don't know if you have any. So the same way, even for your purchases, you're supposed to declare the same for all the categories. Is it zero rated? Is it standard VAT at 16%, or is it exempt? So I think based on what you're saying, you have a VAT obligation, which you are required to oblige to by every month by 20th. That's for VAT. So when it comes to the end of the year, again, this is another obligation for the income tax, for you to declare now for the full year sales and your expenses for the full year. Expenses including your cost of the tickets, right? So that
So to make it clear,
whatever remains is your profit, which is now your margin, of course, minus overhead, which is now what is your taxable income.
so because I
Right?
have VAT obligation, I must declare both my vatable and exempt sales on the 20th of every month. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Derrick?
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. The next question is, can ETIMS invoices be raised after the financial year has ended?
I think the straight answer is no, because this cannot be backdated. The ETIMS system, being a real-time transmission system, cannot be backdated. So if you didn't raise your invoices within the year, you're not able to push that to the following year. It will not be categorized under that current year where you have raised the invoice.
Okay. Thank you, Beatrice. The next question is, how do travel agents handle services paid but not invoiced via ETIMS?
Services paid. So, well, just reiterating that the requirement here is for every service that you're charging or every service that you're offering, you need to raise an invoice. So, in terms of how to handle services that you have not raised invoices on ETIMS, this is a bit tricky, but you can probably move the sales to that other year where, or anyway, as long as you have, well, let me say for the past few years, the 2 years and 2025 as well, this has not been very, the measures have not been very strict in terms of ETIMS. So you can still continue and declare the service as an income in your yearly filing and ignore the ETIMS for now, because KRA, they're giving a leeway for that. But given the current year in 2026, you need to ensure that for every service, everything that you're servicing, you're supplying, you need to raise an invoice from ETIMS.
There's somebody who's raised their hand.
Yeah, Anish. Anish, go ahead. Maybe it was an error. Maybe just go on.
All right.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, Anish.
Okay, so like you said, that KRA will not penalize or not enforce completely for services which we have paid for, but we have not received ETIMS. Now, there are certain, like many travel agents do travel insurance, they use B2B portals from different things. So none of them actually give us ETIMS. Although we are receiving money from the client directly into our accounts, and we have to ETIMS the full amount, but there is nothing we can show for as expenses. So how is going to be, how will that work out?
Yeah, I think you just need to remain vigilant in terms of asking for the ETIMS. And now that, of course, we appreciate this is a new law, that not everyone is very keen to observe at the moment. Everyone is learning how to maintain this compliance. So it's for you as the buyer to ensure that you're actually getting the ETIMS. And what I've seen some people try to make controls there is by not paying an invoice that is not ETIMS compliant. So for me to pay you, you have to raise an ETIMS invoice to me first so that I process your payment.
So does that mean indirectly that there are for services which we don't get ETIMS, we should not ETIMS as well? Issue ETIMS?
Yeah. You should. What I'm saying is for 2025, because you know the public notice just came in towards the end of the year. Of course, there are other expenses you had incurred from January to, it came in I think October, which you may not have collected ETIMS. So of course, KRA are appreciating that this is something we are learning, and they have given a leeway to include non-ETIMS expenses in the return. As much as the income tax return is coming auto-populated with what is ETIMS compliant, there will be somewhere for you to input the non-ETIMS. All what you need to have is the documentation showing exactly where you bought from and how you paid for it. You have proof that this is actually your expense. But that's 2025. So 2026 may be different.
So, sorry, you're saying 2025 expenses which were not which we didn't receive ETIMS will still be allowed for as expenses.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as you have the documentation.
Documentation, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can move to the next question. The next question, somebody is asking how are miscellaneous expenses, e.g. stationery, parking fees, drivers, freelancers, tour guides, handled on ETIMS?
Yeah. So once again, every expense needs to be on ETIMS. So especially things like stationery, you will need to just ask the provider to give you ETIMS. However, the other option that we had from the presentation, the buyer initiated method, where you can actually invoice the person you're buying from, but they have to give you consent. So This is also an option which is working, but currently just working for individuals, because it's either done on eCitizen or using a USSD code, and this do not apply for companies. So that is an option that you can explore to raise the invoice on their behalf, so that you have the ETIMS compliant invoices, but you're the one who has raised them.
Njeri, I think you've raised your hand.
Sorry, just to add on to that question, what about the services that are digital in nature that we are not able to get ETIMS invoices? Like, for instance, if you're paying for a group of yours to travel with an Uber, and you've paid for the Uber, and the app currently doesn't allow you to insert a buyer PIN, how are these being handled? Is it being considered that Uber is an imported service, or how would we go about getting the PIN inserted on these kind of digital services?
I think what I've seen people do is reaching out to Uber directly, the support, for them to issue you with invoices. However, I know they're also being regulated in terms of this compliance. This is including petrol stations and all other mass providers who are not yet compliant. Even government services like licenses. So eventually all this will need to be ETIMS compliant. But in the meantime, for things like Uber, I think you can reach out directly to Uber support for them to issue you with an invoice.
All right. The next question. Somebody is asking, what is the process for validation of income and expenses on ETIMS?
Derrick, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I can take that also. When it comes to validation of income and expenses on ETIMS, basically the KRA who want to match what you have declared as income vis-a-vis the ETIMS invoices that you have generated. The same will also apply for your expenses, such that for every expense that you're claiming, of course, with the exemptions that we've looked at, then those expenses should again match what is transmitted via ETIMS. And maybe just to add on to this, what makes an ETIMS invoice very fully compliant, that it should include your company's name and the KRA PIN as well. The KRA PIN is very important. It's very important and should be included on all the ETIMS invoices that you are receiving. Yeah, so that is basically the process that KRA is using to validate income and expenses. I think I can also read out question 11. How should overseas suppliers or customers without a local PIN be invoiced via ETIMS? I think I can also take this one. Yeah, so you can issue ETIMS invoices and not include the buyer's PIN. So in the event that your customer is not Kenyan based and you want to invoice them, then it is possible for you to raise an ETIMS invoice without including a KRA PIN. However, if you are receiving, or rather you have your expenses, it is important that you make sure that the person who you're buying from is including your KRA PIN on the ETIMS invoices, so that the same is matched to your company's return. And we can tackle question 12. How does ETIMS integrate with back office accounting systems? We'll take this one, Beatrice.
Yeah, so the integration of ETIMS with your ERP system that you have this is done through an API. So it can only be done through approved APIs providers by KRA. There's a list of them which we can share. And this API will be plugged into your system so that the invoices that are raised from your system are then now made to be ETIMS compliant. It's like what we used to use before called SSD, where the invoice comes out stamped. It's your regular invoice, but it has a stamp of KRA at the bottom. Maybe you've seen that from your suppliers or something, but it's done through an API, and these API providers are selected, approved providers by KRA, which we can share a list later.
Okay, the next question, how are credit notes handled in ETIMS?
Yeah, so credit notes are acceptable on ETIMS if you make a mistake. I think as long as you do it within the same month, you can always raise a credit note. So this will essentially cancel the original invoice that you had done to zero out for you to now raise the correct invoice. So this is a feature that is possible on ETIMS, and it can be done.
Thank you for that. So the next question is, John, I see your hand is up. You have a question. I think that could be a mistake, so we can move on to the next question. What exchange rate is allowable? Is it the company rate or the CBK rate?
So what is recommended is the CBK rate. I don't know what company rate is, but this needs to be consistent. So if you're using CBK rates or IATA rates, they need to be consistent in all your transactions. You cannot use today CBK and tomorrow you're using the other one, because that will be a mismatch in terms of the accounting principles.
Okay. The next, somebody has raised their hand. And Doroto,
Hi, how are you? You
we
can
are
hear me?
fine. Yes, we can hear you.
You're saying the rate's supposed to be inconsistent with the CBK or IATA. Do we do it on average per month or throughout the year?
If you look at CBK, they have an average per day. So it's better to use the average per day, because there is the buying and the selling. So you use the mean that is for that day. However, if you're not able to, you should still use a mean for monthly, which is more closer. It gives you a closer position than using yearly. You see, if you're using the end of the year, January and December, the rates are very far.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The next question is, how should tax exemption and VAT be applied for travel agents, including zero-rated services?
Tax exemption, I'm not sure exactly which tax exemption you're referring to, but for tax exemption, you'd need to apply for this through KRA, and this has to be approved. But it really depends on what your company is about and if you qualify for the exemptions. So in terms of VAT, if you're not VAT registered, then definitely the VAT portion becomes your expense.
Okay. So the next question is, how does ETIMS impact income tax and VAT obligations?
Yeah. So I think just as Derrick had mentioned in the presentation, now KRA is able to view in advance what you have made in terms of your income. And this is where the auto-populated transactions will come to play, because they can already see from their end that that you have done this kind of services, or you have billed such kind of transactions. So, and in terms of VAT, the VAT is also auto-populated. So the ETIMS brings that real time, and the reconciliation from KRA side is done automatically, because they're able to see that in advance before you do your self-assessment.
Okay, yeah, so the next question, somebody is asking, what is the procedure for item classification on ETIMS invoices?
Yeah, so I think the procedure, it depends on which ETIMS platform you're going to use or solution. And this is potentially something we can assist with, depending on exactly what your services are and which ETIM solution you have chosen to use. So this will differ from different solutions.
Yeah, that's correct. So the next question is, what receipting options exist in ETIMS and how to generate receipts?
If you can answer that, Derrick.
Yeah, so just the receipting options and how to generate ETIMS receipts also depends on the platform that you're using. So if you're using the USSD, that would ordinarily be a bit different than using the online platform. And as Beatrice has said, this is a service that you are able to assist you with. The next question is how to maintain compliance when issuing invoices for hotels, tours, and other international export services.
So just as we have said, the way to comply is to ensure that all your sales go through ETIMS. So it doesn't matter if it's to overseas, it's to a local hotel, or to an individual person, or to tours. So everything needs to be on ETIMS, and generating the invoice on ETIMS is what is required for you to be compliant, as well as ensuring that these same suppliers also issue with ETIMS, and the option of you generating the same through the buyer initiated method is also a consideration for you to ensure that you're getting the ETIMS compliant invoices.
All right, thank you. So the next, somebody has raised their hand.
Yes. So one thing back to that hotel and tours thing, when you say we should issue ETIMS, is it the 0 rated or with 16% VAT?
So first of all, it depends if you're VAT registered. If you are VAT registered, then it should be 16, depending on the exact service that you're offering. And if you're not, then you should not be charging VAT. So the ETIMS can either be VAT or not VAT. Depends with the obligations under your PIN.
Okay, thank you, Beatrice, for that clarification. The next question is how to handle ETIMS downtime or system outages. Yes, I can take that one. So you can try to use a different browser, but then again, for those of us who have used, and especially the online platform, there are instances where the platform is down. Yeah, so I know sometimes it tests your patience, but maybe you can just try and give it some time. If that doesn't work, you can try and use a different browser. Alternatively, you could go for especially the system integrated option, which in most cases will not have downtime. The next question is how to validate purchases from airlines and other service providers in ETIMS.
Yeah. So how to validate purchases from airlines. So for airlines, as we have mentioned, they don't have to be on ETIMS. So that one, there's no need to validate. But for other service providers, the ETIMS invoice has a QR code whereby you can scan the QR code and see if it's redirecting you to the iTax portal, giving you the details of the invoice on the KRA's website. So that is how to validate a legit ETIMS invoice.
Okay, the next question is how should freelance tour guides and drivers comply with ETIMS?
Yes, I think we've already handled that in terms of the buyer-initiated method, where you can issue yourself an invoice on behalf of your freelancer tour guides and drivers.
Okay, the next question is it mandatory to run ETIMS for all clients or only for those who request it? Yes, so just to answer that, you are obligated to issue ETIMS invoices for all your clients. Yeah, so as such, it is mandatory for you to raise ETIMS invoices for all your sales.
Yeah.
The next question is what gadgets or equipment are required to operate ETIMS? Again, just to take this one, there are the different platforms or options you could use for ETIMS. In most cases, we've seen people use laptops for the softwares and just to access the online platform. However, as we have seen, there are options where you can use or rather download the app, and you can also use the USSD code. Yeah, so when it comes to the gadgets and equipment, this is dictated by the kind of platform you would want to use for ETIMS. The next question is how can travel agencies ensure all-round compliance with ETIMS and other tax requirements?
Yeah, so I think with ETIMS you have gone through that. And in terms of all other tax requirements, it's just to ensure that you are within the tax compliance calendar. You're complying with your taxes at the right time, and the accurate tax returns are being filed. So it's also important, maybe just to mention, one of the things that we do for our clients, we normally verify or validate your income tax return before you file it. So that will essentially involve us looking at your numbers, what you have claimed on your P&L or in your tax computation to ensure that it's within the law and what is, there are several non-deductible expenses that we see businesses claiming, which then end up being a red flag on KRA side, and then this triggers audit for your business. So we are able to check the return before it's filed to give you assurance that the numbers you have on your return are actually legit numbers and the correct account categories that cannot be scrutinized by KRA, and then we give ahead and file the return. We also check your previous compliance to ensure that you don't have any risks or exposures in your current, whatever you have filed before, and to ensure that we recommend to you how to better ensure that your business is being compliant, as well as maximizing your tax position. So this is something we do, and if you require us to support you, we are always available. Of course, it depends on a business-to-business case. So we'll have to look at what your business is doing, what are your opportunities in terms of tax optimization and tax savings, and also see where your risks are. Yeah, Derrick?
Okay, so the next question is, how are VAT and tax implications handled for overseas clients, suppliers, and export services?
I think we've already answered that.
So then, yeah, the next question is, what are the best practices for ETIMS compliance and implementation in travel and tourism business?
Yeah, so that we've also answered.
Yeah. Next question is, how does ETIMS reporting work for purchases and expenses, including validation of receipts?
Yeah, so I think with every ETIMS solution that you have, there's a feature for the report where you can tell how much sales you have invoiced for a certain period, which will then need to match with what you have in your ERP or your accounting system to ensure that they are matching. Because what is on ETIMS is what KRA has. So in case of any discrepancies, you're able to reconcile the same and ensure that these two speak to each other. They're like mirroring each other.
I believe question 29, how does ticketing and VAT exemptions work for air tickets and other travel services?
Yeah, so that we've
already discussed this, yeah. How to handle income and expenses reporting for items like park fees, supermarket purchases, and other operational costs. I believe we've also addressed this question. The next question is, how is ETIMS used for accounting for purchases and service fees in the travel industry? I believe we've also looked at this. Question 32 is, Matthias, your hand is up.
Yeah, I needed to ask, and I'm asking for maybe from an ignorant point of view. If we are supposed to file every month on KRA portal, maybe some agents here will agree with me that most of our clients, in as much as you'll have a 30-day or 2-week payment period, some clients will take 1 year to pay some bills. How do you report that to KRA in as much as you've invoiced the client, but no income has come in because this client has delayed or it's a bad debt? How do you handle that?
That's a good question, Matthias, and I think it's more of a cash flow issue because you have declared this as your income, so KRA is expecting that you will report it for income tax, but then the client has not paid. So I'm assuming they will still pay because that is how the authority will argue. They will say it's already a sale because you already provided the service to them. And there's a way the law describes the point of sale for every transaction, which is usually the earlier of when you raise the invoice or when you deliver the service or when you receive payment. So in this case, it is when you have either delivered the service or issued the invoice. And this is considered as your sale. So it's just a cash flow management issue. But of course, if they end up not paying you at all for 3 years, or is it 2 years now, then you're free to declare them as bad debt and claim back that invoice that you had raised on their behalf. Well, maybe for management purposes, what you can do with the clients is agree to give them a pro forma invoice for you to issue a tax invoice after they pay you. So this will be an arrangement between you and your client that you issue them a pro forma invoice, which is not a tax invoice or an ETIMS invoice. And then once they pay you, you can then raise the ETIMS invoice for it to completely become a tax invoice. I hope that helped.
Thank you for that clarification. Moving on, we have question 32. Somebody is asking how to address misconceptions about local tax compliance in the travel and tourism sector. Yes, so just to answer that, I believe that is why we are having these sessions where we are able to address some of these tax questions that you have, so that now you are informed and going forward you're able to make educated or rather better decisions. The next question is, how does ETIMS impact IATA ticketing and VAT exemptions? I think we have tackled this question. So moving forward, we have question 34. What are the requirements for using ETR DATEC machines in relation to ETIMS? Beatrice, you can take that.
So I think you're referring to the old ETR machines, although they were renewed to be made online, like they're able to connect to the internet and you're able to transmit the invoices as well. So these are still considered as ETIMS invoices, or rather ETIMS compliant invoices, because the data transmission is happening and KRA is visible to what you're invoicing. However, with time, I'm sure these devices will be phased out. So it's better for you to migrate to the ETIMS solutions that we mentioned as early, because it's much easier. Because this, you can be able to raise invoices from the comfort of your home or wherever the office is, as opposed to this machine. If you forget it in the office, then, or if it's faulty, then you're stuck. So I would recommend that you move on to ETIMS instead of using the ETR machines.
Graham, I think your hand is up.
Yes, I have a question. When we are selling or when we are buying the tickets for park fees, there's that gateway fee that is there and it is not receipted. So how do we handle that?
Mhm. Yeah, of course, that's potentially a problem because everything is supposed to be captured in the document as for evidence purposes. So maybe this is something KATA can talk to the providers for them to be able to provide you with the sufficient documentation to back up these expenses, including making them ETIMS compliant.
Just a question there, Beatrice.
Yeah.
Because this is a fees, is a transaction fee that neither goes to government nor does it come to us. In fact, we don't even know who offers that service. It's a controversy for another day. Wouldn't that be considered as a bank charge? I'm just thinking.
I think it could pass as a bank charge, and if I'm looking at it, it's like the convenience fee that you pay on eCitizen, right?
Yes, it's like that. Yeah, like the convenience fee on eCitizen. How is that treated?
Yeah, so I'm assuming this is like an M-Pesa charge.
Or even card. Yeah, it's actually a card. Card. Yeah. So we
Yeah, I think
we can write to KRA.
Yeah, to clarify.
We can write to KRA to just clarify. But I would think that should ideally, because it's a transaction fee, is to be treated as a bank charge or
Yeah, like a money transfer charge.
a money transfer charge. Yeah.
So even if you pay this money over the counter at the bank, that gateway fee is not reflected. So how can you possibly say that it is a transactional charge?
Okay. Beryl, allow us to contact KRA and just seek clarification on that, so that we don't mislead we don't mislead you.
Yeah.
Anish, I don't know if your question has been answered.
No, this is something else. Just wanted to clarify on, can you invoice yourself ETIMS for travel made on behalf of your company?
No, you can't, because then
So how,
the buyer's PIN cannot be the seller's PIN.
so how do you claim that as expenses then, if it's not ETIMS compliant?
So you'll need to use the PIN of the person who is giving you that service as the.
So example, my company has issued the ticket for myself to travel for something related with work. How do I invoice that then?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I hadn't. I thought you meant both you meaning the company invoicing the company. So yes, you can invoice yourself. You can always invoice yourself as now you'll be like the customer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving on to the next question. How does government oversight or agency checks relate to ETIMS compliance?
I'm not sure I'm understanding government oversight. I don't know if you understand this, Derrick.
No, not really.
My understanding, and I hope the person who asked this is on the call, is how does government oversight? My licensing, and I see John maybe is the one who asked that question as reason, and maybe the licensing and the government fees or the costs, you know. But we can give John a chance to see if he's the one who asked that question. John? Or no? Yeah, so it could be just the license, how to treat the licenses.
For now, you'll just need to claim them because you'll have the invoice and the document from the government agency. But I know they are also being pushed to ETIMS, the government agencies, including county, to also be ETIMS compliant and be issuing the license invoices and bills through ETIMS. But for now, you just claim them as long as you have the document from the government agency.
Thank you, Beatrice. The next question is how to ensure compliance with both income tax filing and ETIMS invoicing. I believe here we have extensively looked at these. We'll just make sure that all your incomes are transmitted through ETIMS, or all your invoices are transmitted through ETIMS. And for your expenses as well, you will need to get ETIMS invoices. The last question is how to handle all areas of ETIMS compliance, including invoicing, reporting, validation, and registration. We've also extensively looked at that whole process, but we would encourage you to reach out to us directly if you need assistance with now the invoicing, the validation, or the registration with ETIMS. Yes, so that brings us to the end of the questions. So unless the other speakers have something to add on, we really appreciate your time.
So I guess there were some questions on the chat. I'll just maybe not respond to all of them, but those that I think we are able to respond. So there's one here around the commissions that are extended to the travel and tour consultants. Do they need the employees to generate tax invoice so that they account for them in OPEX? I think that's one. I think we've also answered the one for services outside. I don't know whether you've tackled about the Uber and other digital purchase. It was tackled. As a tricky one, ETIMS for parking. I guess some of the small nuances that, but I'm so sure you've met that. Maybe you can just touch on that. I think there's also park fees there. All right, and then the last one maybe the KATA, the KRA ETIMS system, which validates expenses based on real-time transmitted data, creates a conflict with the accounting, matching principle. The recognizing expenses in the same period as related to revenues. How do we align those ones? Maybe just those three quick questions as we wind up, because we are all out of time.
Yeah, so maybe just to comment on the commission. I'm assuming these commissions are being paid to either individuals or companies.
Individuals, the staff.
Individual employees, or are they outsiders?
Individual employees.
Yeah, so these commissions are paid out as salary, so they would need to be put together with your other basic pay for them to be taxed under payee. And this does not require you to have an ETIMS, just like we had mentioned. Emoluments, they form part of the emoluments which are now exempt from ETIMS. I'll tackle the third question. I don't remember the second one very well, but the third one, which was the conflicting KRA, ETIMS, and accounting principles. I am in agreement with this because I know it looks like ETIMS is now forcing us to use cash basis to report our income and consequently the tax, and as opposed to accrual accounting, which is what is in the law. So yeah, it's a controversy which I don't know how KRA is planning to handle it. But in case we get any further insights on this, we will be able to communicate. So I am in agreement that this is a conflict, and how to align it is really depends on you as the company. You could choose to budge into what KRA is asking us to do to ensure that your accounting and your tax are the same. However, it is allowed for you to have a different taxable income number as a different from what is in your accounting. So what is in your management report can be different from what is in your tax computation income, which you'll then need to just support with the computation and documentation. What was the second one, Nicanor?
It was just a small nuance, in terms of parking fees. I've had questions around matatu fare. How do you account for those ones?
Yeah. So I think as we all endeavor to comply with these ETIMS, of course, some of us will be slow. I'm assuming, I don't know when matatus will be in full compliance or if at all. But the option of buyer initiated should also be an option for you to claim to generate the ETIMS invoice on their behalf. But this means they would have to consent, they would have to give you their PIN. Yeah, it's a journey, which we hope eventually will align with every stakeholder and all the related parties that we interact with in the business.
All right. I think we have way exceeded our time. We've almost clocked 2 hours. And obviously this was going to be an interesting conversation because of the heat it's generated. But I guess we will continue to have this conversation so that we understand it. Maybe Beatrice and Derrick, what we could do is allow us to have this conversation at least every quarter, so that we deal with those smaller issues that come and we deal with them. There's lots of questions, and we don't want to be ignorant what the law wants us, but also there are real life and real time and practical challenges that our agents are facing based on the unique space where our industry finds itself. Some of these services have been exempted, and so how do you work in such an environment? So thank you very much to the both of you for your facilitation of this forum. We are happy and glad, to be working with you to support our members, particularly on these issues of of tax compliance, but also just tax education. And I hope we make this a regular. I think we'll come back to you and just see if we can have regular quarterly sessions so that we can update members on what's coming up at every point, and we don't have to wait until we have a challenge or a problem before we talk about it. So for members, thank you very much. We apologize. I know you came in large numbers. We did not expect that we would be overwhelmed. For those that were not able to join us, we do apologize for that. I think we will plan better next time. But for you, thank you very much for taking your time. We have remained a lot of us on call. I think this is one of those highest attendance we've had in the recent years. And please keep sending us those questions and encounters you meet. Send them to us so that we can forward them to the team at TARA, and that allows us to prepare better, you know, for future engagements with them. So thank you very much for spending your time with us. I hope this has been very useful. If you need to reach out to TARA Agility, they have provided their email address there on the chat, which is accounting@taraagility.com. Feel free to reach out to them, and they'll be able to respond to your queries. Just mention that you're a member of KATA, and then they know how to support you best. Thank you all, and I wish you a great afternoon. Let's catch up again soon. For those that are interested in the payment summit and how to deal with the issues of fraud management, our K-TRIPS, Kenya Travel Industry Payment Summit, is coming up in March. Please watch out for that and register to attend that particular summit. Thank you all, and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.